Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, just a second, thank you.
Clinton, iPad 738590 just showed up.
I'm not sure who I paid. I'm happy to just ask.
It has to identify themselves.
Mm-hmm.
If you are iPad 738590, can you please identify yourself, please?
Sorry about that. It took me a minute to find the unmute. This is Shirley Robinson.
Okay, hey, Miss Shirley.
How are you today?
Okay, we're good. We are good.
Okay.
You got someone else? All right, the time is now 4:01. Call this meeting to order. The first thing we have is our meeting minutes from January. And unfortunately, they didn't get sent out. So we will ensure that they get sent out. And so we will defer approval of the minutes to our next meeting. Next, we have public comments. We do have one public comment. It says, "Dear Richland County Pennies for Progress Program. I'm writing to ask about progress on the Sunset Drive sidewalk project. Our next neighborhood association meeting is Monday, March 17th, and it would be very helpful to be able to give an update on this project. Several residents have asked when it's expected that the project will be completed and the road reopened." Director Maloney, do you have any?
Our project manager, Michael Green, had reached out to let them know. It was out, I think, between a week and a half and 2 weeks at that point for opening the road. We have retaining walls being constructed, and so we couldn't open that to traffic as there was shoring right next to the westbound driving lane. And so once that shoring is removed, which they're doing now with the backfilling of the wall, once that's safely done, we can restore the traffic. They will be putting sidewalk in under traffic using flaggers. So anytime there may be a cement truck in or they'll be putting that on the edge of one lane and flagging that so to restore traffic, and then avoiding high volume periods such as 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., et cetera.
That part. All right, thank you, sir. Next, we'll move on to Office of Business Opportunity, OSBO, with Miss LaSasha Breland.
Thank you, John. So I will start off with the numbers for our SLBE certification program. Right now, we have 7 architectural and engineering, 63 construction, 99 non-professional services, 78 professional services, and 6 wholesale, which puts us at a total of 253 certified SLBEs to date. We also have 6 pending new applications and 16 renewal SLBEs. Regarding our 2025 Business Workshop Academy, OSBO's theme this year is Transform, Succeed, Repeat. Our next in-person workshop is titled, excuse me, Finance Forward, Unlocking Access to Capital for Your Business. And that will be held this Thursday, March 20th from 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. and lunch is included. The workshop will take place in the Richland County Administration Building in the 4th floor conference room located at 2020 Hampton Street, Columbia, South Carolina, 29204. Free surface parking is located behind the parking garage off of Hardin Street. There will be a panel discussion highlighting topics such as how to assess your small business needs, preparing your business for funding, and funding options such as alternative, conventional, and micro lending. And our panelists include collaborative partners from Capital Funding Solutions, South Carolina Community Loan Fund, Community Works, and Security Federal Bank. To register, we do have a few seats left. And we're open for additional registration, which will then close on Wednesday at noon. However, if you would like to register, please visit richlandcountysc.gov/OSBO, or you can reach out to us directly at our office phone, which is 803-576-1540. And lastly, I will close with the OSBO office is actively recruiting small business firms that offer a number of different services and commodities. If you are interested in learning more about our certification program, please contact us so that we can discuss your qualifications. Thank you.
Can you refresh us on what SLBE stands for?
Yes, of course. So SLBE stands for Small Local Business Enterprise. It is a certification program through Richland County. And essentially, we certify small businesses that offer a number of different services such as construction, architectural or engineering, professional services, and non-professional services, as well as wholesale.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody have any questions for Miss LaSasha? I literally had to look to make
Oh,
sure.
my goodness.
You're always gonna be Lachey to me.
Please stop.
Said it to me.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
all right, thank you, ma'am. I see Jackie.
I didn't see.
I'm here. This is
Yes.
Rosalind. I put a message in the chat to let you know I was gonna be presenting on behalf of Jackie.
Oh, my bad.
It's
Uh,
okay.
Miss Rosalind will be speaking for the comment.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Our package, our presentation begins on page 12 of the packet. We're gonna go over our ridership data, so we compare month to month and give an analysis of our year to year. Also talk about our condensed finance, or present our financial data, and we also present our DVE, where the last two are, information on it. Starting page 13. We have listed as item A, our ridership comparison. So we only give what our fixed route is, for the month of February. You see our ridership was a little over 123,000. Compared to last year at the same time, it went down about 6%. Last year was 132,000. The next part over, where we do ridership for February 2025 against January 2025, we had just under a little over 0.6%. Again, February, we had 123,860. In January, we had 123,138. In January, just want to point out part of the reason we could have had this decrease was in January, we had to suspend service, 2 inclement weather days. In January, we stopped service. One day we stopped service at 4, and another day we didn't have service at all. So although February had shorter days, with January having to be no service and partial service, that equated to the decrease in the ridership. All right, the next page shows our average daily rate ridership, which kind of put this here so you can see it as a running tab of what all happened in 2024. And it also gives a comparison for the same month and percentage of change for that. Next page. I'm sorry, was somebody saying something?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Next page, our GameStop ridership. We had about 42,000 total passenger boardings for the GameStop shuttle. Of course, this shows an increase from the month of January, about 15,000. The next page gives our financial position at the month of January 2025. You see, we finished off the month with a net income about just shy of 750,000. The next page is where we internally show what money we're spending with DBE companies, local DBE firms here, and money's paid by the common. This concludes my report, and I open the floor to any questions if you have it.
Anybody have any questions for Miss Rosalind? All right, thank you, ma'am.
You're so welcome. You guys have a good day.
Next, we'll move down to transportation program with Director Maloney.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Just out of curiosity for the action items that we have, do we have a full quorum?
Yes.
Okay, and we're tracking that for our minutes that will be coming out each month with, when we send out the new agenda, we'll have the minutes attached
Yes.
going forward. And So we were able to track that from the screen as far as knowing who the members on here are. Okay. The first item is to discuss and consider the acceptance of the transportation needs assessment report. And I know how large that document is. Chairman Black has printed it out just to be sure we know how large it is.
Yeah, it's,
And I gotta do that first. Okay. Yeah. So I'm in. So I will just review the screen and put it up. That.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Share.
Okay. So it's a long document. It does talk about the goals of the program to identify, you know, the needs throughout Richland County. It starts with the outreach and shows the maps of the various projects that had been planned before the outreach. And then with the outreach, it shows the notes that were taken during the meeting, different citizens that submitted information that would either be at the meeting or after the meeting that was taken in. And then the bottom line is what we have here, which was the report of projects that came out of that. And so they kept it, so it was identified by the group. So Central Midlands COG did have projects, and those would have been on the maps that went out. So people would know what had been planned by the Central Midlands COG at those meetings. And then as we went through the process, we had the remaining 2012 Richland Penny projects that would be for sure not funded by the budget of the 2012 referendum amount. And those are being reviewed as far as the greenways right now. The widenings are definite. The greenways have been certainly reviewed for budget to get on this list, but we're also just checking with the city on some of the feasibilities that, you know, that they looked good originally, but they may have some issues with them. Sidewalks through there, and then I believe this shows or was added was the changes that the transportation Penny Advisory Committee, your committee had recommended to ad hoc and then to council to include Spears Creek Church Road sidewalk on here. And then we go to the programmatic categories, which are probably older than what council has suggested for community investment budgets and things like that. They tend to be a little larger than this. But they're the programs of resurfacing sidewalks and dirt road paving. Then the towns and cities that gave input, like the town of Blythewood, that added the two intersections, Langford, Wilson Boulevard and Blythewood Road, where there's currently that skew.
sorry, can you admit?
Oh, admit, sorry. And then the Reimer Pond Road and Wilson Boulevard intersection, which probably there's some other projects that come further down the list that may also help with those intersections. Then input from the town of Irma, the Salem Church Road, which is a road that currently comes in at an odd angle. The current Broad River Road plans do improve that very end of the road coming into Broad River Road. It kind of comes like an exit ramp right now where you almost got to look 160 degrees over your shoulder to make that turn. So that's the improvement here would be to potentially then subdivide through an area where there's a health clinic in that and line up with an existing signal at the Walmart on Broad River Road. So that was one that they had put on the list. City of Forest Acres had Forest Drive utility undergrounding and traffic signal upgrades at 9 locations. those need to all be vetted. And we'll kind of get into that because there's a lot of intersection recommendations. City of Columbia had special projects for street surface enhancement, for resurfacing SCDOTs with new enhancements, railroad quiet zones, bollard installation at hospitality districts. They had 7 bikeways shown here. Not necessarily greenways, but more urban bikeways, showing what type of improvement they're looking at. They had quite a few special projects like the Assembly Street Phase 2, rail separation project, where there's funds for the local match that they were looking at. Grant for that. Gateway signage, Assembly Street Phase 3, and then Hardin Street Phase 2, as well as Divine Street Phase 1 and 2. And tonight there's a city meeting with the DOT, sponsored by the DOT, on what street was that. They've got another street looking at enhancements tonight for Divine Street. Pretty much from 5 Points going out to what is it? The end of it,
Millwood?
Millwood? Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
right. Looking at that street, it does have sidewalks on both sides, but it's a 4-lane road. So they may be looking at some changes to that with DOT. Sidewalk, they have new sidewalks at various locations with a budget assigned to it, and a greenway, a new one. Vista Greenway expansion in Columbia Riverwalk. So those were all the things from the city, and then SCDOT District 1 looked at it and had quite a few intersections here. I won't go through them all, but you can see there's some over 20 intersections just from DOT, which aligned with a lot of public input too at times. They have a few widenings on here, Reimer Pond Road, Raybound Road, and Beltline. And then as well, sidewalks they identified that are needed, resurfacings that they've identified, and pedestrian improvement projects, and an evaluation of the US 78 median crossover evaluation. USC had projects. In accordance with the budget, they appear to be smaller scopes: Bluff Road to the end, Stadium, North National Guard Road, Bluff Road, Industrial Boulevard, and Silo Court. A new connector road from South Stadium to National Guard Road, a fairly short distance there, and then they had about 6 sidewalks here. Public input, a lot of widenings here in the beginning. So we're looking at over 10 widenings, maybe 12 there. 3 special projects, a road extension of Creech. We're doing Creech in Penny 1, but this would be an additional extension. New connector road from Arbor to Indian Mound, and then special project Shop Road extension Phase 3 from the public input. And then the public has a lot of intersections right in here, looking at close to 20. All in all, I think the intersections are in the neighborhood of about 50 of them that need to be evaluated. Then bikeways. The public had bikeways: Broad River Road, Beatty Road, Clemson Road, Kennerly Road, and Broad River Road. And so those were all the inputs that we took from the public. We have a project manager that's working on pulling all those intersections together into one location. We will keep those identified in a column as to where they were sourced, like public or Central Midlands COG. The intersections that were on Central Midlands COG were somewhat vetted. as they had estimates and reviewed them and kind of knew that they needed signals. These would need that same kind of vetting to understand the traffic volumes on each leg of the intersection to see if it would warrant a traffic signal. And so we will be going through that process, and our PM is authorized to get help from a consultant. So we'll be putting out an RFP on that to provide that kind of traffic engineering support. Then there's, of course, in here was the comment, and the comment, I think, is just listed as its transit, basic transit needs. So, go ahead, sir.
This is what we have already approved prior to the approval that went to council or to ad hoc. Is that correct?
This hasn't been officially approved, and as you know, kind of like what you did with it, you know, knowing that you made it a living document and identified in, you know, a couple a need where there wasn't a need and where there is a need in it. And so that's, you know, already identified on here. But as far as the actual referendum and then the principals document listed these in it. So it did go through parts of it went through a resolution, but the actual just approving this as the needs assessment of 2024. We'd like to see a motion on that go all the way through to council. And for instance, the referendum did list widenings, but not all the rest. So just want to make sure that's in there.
Question, yeah, I noticed you have a project phase 1 and phase 2. If there's a continuation for, say, take a sidewalk and then the old penny, does it take priority in the new penny? And how does that affect new projects?
So I'll go to that list real quick, the penny projects. Everything on that list in our principles document is to be launched into design first. So it does take that priority depending on how things unfold, you know, with the bond or whatnot, if there is one. That could be other projects that we're looking at. And those will be prioritized within their group, like sidewalks to sidewalks, intersection to intersection. But the idea would be to cover the scope of those different programs through each year of the new penny.
Well, it doesn't seem fair to the new projects, does it? That being said, if you have a $10 million old phase project and you need another $5 million to complete out of new penny, that takes away from some of the new projects that are proposed. We propose that to be funded. So the fair thing to do would be, I think, every project should have at least some ending point. That's not the case. Every year you could be funding the same project over and over again, depending on the extent of it. So how do you, what do you stop? And how do you quantify how much you're gonna spend on a continuing project?
Yeah, that's a good question. The way we're loading each project is to ensure it's funded. So the reload each year though wouldn't be looking at the same projects over and over.
And so and correct me if I'm wrong on this. So although these are carryover projects, they were initially the funding was there for them, but as Penny 1 progressed over and prices, inflation and everything went up, which caused the programs that was already on slab to be done, made them cost more, which is this is the result of those higher and unexpected expenditures, essentially, that's why these, am I on the right page?
Yeah, yes, you are. And if the penny was a 23-year program, and it didn't have a fiscal cap at 1.07 billion, then yes, these could have been completed, but it had a 1.07 billion cap. So that's why it's getting done in, 13 and a half years instead of 23 years. And so with that said, then these will be the first things, and these are by ordinance, by our rules to happen first, as far as launching them and getting them going into design. All in all, those projects are, under 200 million in our current budgets. So the approval in the referendum was up to, I believe, 950 million. That could be bonded, but that I have no idea what council will approve for that amount.
Gotcha. So at this point, we just need to approve this as presented.
Yes, sir.
Feel like we did that though.
Was there-
With Parker Poe, and then when they was here, when this was the last thing that this was actually the first thing and only thing that we approved last year though. But no? Because we had to approve this so it could go to ad hoc. And then ad hoc passed it, and then it went to council for final approval.
You looked at me, Mr. Chair, so it looks like you wanted to answer. I cannot answer, or I can.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think T-PAC did receive the needs assessment. And what was contained in there at the time, it wasn't the completed report, but it was the assessment.
Okay.
You took that information and you made a recommendation, giving the items that were listed in there, and they were holistically utilized as a platform for county council. And the reason why I know is that I asked Director Maloney and I had this very same conversation, but the actual report itself and accepting the work of the consultant, we technically never officially did.
Okay.
And so we're asking T-PAC to accept the final report from the consultant. So if you would make a motion to accept the final report from the consultant, and you could say as presented if you would like to. And then once you do that, you all certainly take a vote. If that vote is successful, then we go to council. We ask them to do the same thing, because anyone that wants to track the history of this, and we want full transparency, we want someone to say, well, where's the final report? We need to have a final report that people can point back to, even though it's been publicly put out many times over, but the final report technically has not been accepted by this body or county council.
Gotcha. All right, so that being said, is there a motion to accept this report as presented? Wait, hold on. Chris Kiefer has her hand raised.
Yes, this question is for Mr. Maloney. Does this report give you and the Transportation Department folks all the information you need from a needs assessment standpoint to do what you need to do?
Yes, ma'am. This coupled with the principles document that was passed by resolution will give us everything we need to do our work and provide recommendations in the near future.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
And I have a question, Director Maloney. Would this final report allow for additional projects to be recommended, to be added to this report once we make this recommendation?
Well, I would suggest what you did last month would be that process. You did do that with Spear Street Church Road sidewalk coming in, Polo Road widening coming out. But there's also those programmatic things, especially sidewalks, where there are sidewalks listed here, but when I look at the community investment budget, that takes on a bigger role than it did in Penny One. And we need to programmatically every year kind of look at that with you as far as what projects need to be launched out of that based on recommendations and based on proactively looking at areas where there's missing sidewalks to schools, parks, and, you know, from neighborhoods to commerce.
Any other questions? All right, so is there a motion to accept the transportation needs assessment as presented?
Chairman, I move that we make the recommendation for a final report from the consultants as presented by Director Maloney.
Is there a second?
Second.
Who was that?
Ron
That-
Williams.
Mr. Williams, all right. Is there any further discussion?
Can you scroll back to the top of the list? Thank you.
Did you have a question?
No,
Mr.
no,
Williams?
I missed the top of the list, so no,
Okay.
I'm not having questions.
Gotcha. All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? All right, passed unanimous. All right, Mr. Maloney, you got one more?
Sir. Yep. I'm just gonna do screen. All right, can you see that share out there? Jim Hamilton, LB Owens Airport. Okay. 6B is discuss and consider the special project Commerce Drive improvements with a budget of 5 million for other aviation transportation pavement projects. The original project was to extend the road. I'm sorry, this picture doesn't take you down there exactly, but to get out around this runway getting extended in this direction. If you can see that, this is the main runway. That is not likely to occur in at least in a very long time. And there are some areas where, so the airport works with FAA and does get a large percentage of the funding for capital projects through them. There's always a local match. And then there's projects that the FAA won't fund, including areas where vehicle circulations occur that are wearing out. And so parking lots, these are the T hangars where aircraft are stored. And then, so those would have to be locally funded, and they're saying that's in the bit of $600,000. And then there's also the areas between the hangars. That would be funded by FAA, and our local share in that would be some 400,000. So I'm asking for consideration of up to $1 million of the special project to be reallocated for this aviation use.
So this is only a $1 million request, not 5.
Correct.
Is there a motion to approve this request not to exceed $1 million?
Chairman Black, I move that we consider up to $1 million to be allocated for aviation use. Is it Jim Hamilton Airport?
Yes. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Is that you, Chris?
Yes, sir.
It's been moved by Ms. Prelo, seconded by Ms. Kiefer to approve the request not to exceed $1 million. Is there any discussion, any questions? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Motion passed unanimous. That it for you?
I can just give you a up to date on what we talked about at the beginning with the citizen call. So that has been something of interest to people in that commute and opening Sunset Drive. So they continue to work on that. There's also a shutdown of Commerce Way. So I'm up in Blythewood now on Commerce Drive, not Commerce Drive, I'm sorry. Shoot. Stop share too. Community, you are right, thank you. Community Road, which is getting widened, that is to the east side of the Scout Motors site, and so they're making that so it can handle the traffic that would be on that. And that will come into the south leg of our roundabout that's part of the Penny project on Wood Road widening. They've been asking us to, look at potentially getting our project ahead of schedule and whatever, what would that look like? What would that cost to do that? So with that shutdown of Community Road, Scout is, concerned that they would have issues with trucking. So we're looking into that for them. Otherwise, that project is slated to be completed by September. Broad River Road is we've been asked to speak, in May to Irmo community about the status of Broad River Road widening. We're working with the power company up there that's getting close to move their to move their utilities, start doing that. And then we have two projects at procurement for traffic signal installation.
I am gonna, yeah.
One of them is Farming Creek Road and Broad River Road, and having a signal to that.
Talk about it. I got it.
And the second would be
Get approved by the high.
Pine View Road at American Italian Way,
Thank you for letting me.
putting a signal in there. And so those are bidding out. Those will be able to be installed and operating ahead of the project and start to modulate traffic better.
Okay, all right.
That's what we have this month, sir.
Any other questions for Director Maloney? All right, moving on to other business. The 2025 annual State of the Penny update. Do we have any kind of update?
I do have an update, Mr. Chair. So part of the communication last meeting was a question about, whether or not there was activity or the council was going to actually have one. I was able to go back and look at the December 17th, 2024 notes from the Transportation Ad Hoc Committee. And so during that process, a couple of things happened. One of the things, there was a question asked about whether or not any information that I guess provided by back then Ms. O'Kane was reviewed and voted on by TPAC. So to the extent that you all have reviewed that and you find that your notes that you did vote on that and approve that or provide information or feedback, that is something that, we would need to get to, ad hoc, so they would know whatever that feedback is. The other thing, during that meeting, there was a recommendation that, the committee place on a future agenda, action so that the item can be taken, actually like a date set and the action can be taken. So definitely the first thing would be whether or not TPAC actually did provide any feedback that the committee voted on. And then for that information to be shared, and then that will go on transportation ad hoc's agenda to include the setting of a date and considering any feedback that was provided by, this committee. So that could be, considered before the data set and the, outline and everything is done. So, that came back from, again, the December 17, 2024 meeting where the 2024 State of the Penny outline was discussed, but that outline was for 2025, but it's in referencing, of course, the year of 2024. So that's where you would find that information. So that's what we would need right now. So action item for TPAC, if it hasn't had action already, would be to provide any feedback on that outline that was provided. And then from there, that information will be provided to the ad hoc committee for county council. And then they would be looking at taking that feedback and then setting a date and the parameters for the State of the Penny.
So actually, we did submit feedback on December 17th, 2024. It was emailed and hand delivered to ad hoc.
And there was a
And
question
I
that
do
was
have-
raised, so then this cannot, just looking at the notes. And there was when the question was raised as to whether or not there was actual action taken by the committee on that item. So if you have, the meeting notes where it says that the committee actually voted on that, I think you're fine. But the note said that there was no formal action that occurred on that because you didn't have a quorum at the previous meeting. So that's probably where you're considering that. And those were the notes that were provided in the discussion that happened at that December 17th meeting. So you might want to just check that, because if there was no quorum, then that wouldn't actually go and be submitted as official committee action. So now what you could do is, if the committee is aware of that now, you could always, yes, other items you have on there, so I'm assuming that's under as action, you could always also consider taking a vote on that. And that could address your issue there if you want to do that today.
Well, I mean, it was pretty apparent that when this letter from TPAC was given to them and shared with all TPAC members, to which we did get feedback from multiple members of the committee that they supported this, there was also some shade thrown at us because we failed to meet the deadline that was given to us by Ms. O'Kane, which ultimately we literally had less than a week to respond to something, because she sent it to me only and it was stuck in my spam folder and I just found it by accident. After 5-6 months, we've been asking repeatedly about this. And that's what's concerning about this, and that even this communication that was distributed on December 17th, there has been no response whatsoever to this letter that went to County Council Chair Jessica Mackey, Transportation Ad Hoc Committee members, TPAC members, County Administrator Leonardo Brown, Public Works Director Maloney, and the Public Information Office. We have never received a response to this from anyone.
Yeah, so I can tell you that, again, if the TPAC, I hear you saying that everybody supported it, but if you did not take an official action as the body as TPAC, then if you're asking the council or the member to respond to TPAC, but TPAC hasn't actually taken an official action because there wasn't a quorum, I would assume that like you wouldn't get a response from me because there's not an action that the body has taken. It's just like me with county council. if a council member asks me to do something, but there is no action but county council to do that thing, then county council has to then take that action. So you said that TPAC as a body pretty much supported this. So you, again, a short kind of cut to that could be, you could ask for the members to take a vote on that today, because that item, no information there from there has changed. So that then you can actually have that official action taken and recorded as an action of the body. And then that way, again, you have all of that done. So that's certainly another option. Instead of waiting to another meeting, you could also do that.
Is there anyone on here today that does not recall the contents of the letter that we sent out in December?
I remember a letter, but I don't recall specifically what was in it. If you have a copy, John, could you just read it? Or, summarize it?
Yeah, I can read it for everyone. So greetings from TPAC. Now I will state that this response was collaboratively wrote between TPAC Chair Black, TPAC Vice Chair Prelo, and TPAC Secretary Chris Kiefer, and was distributed to everyone. We're reaching out to express our concerns regarding the proposed format of the 2025 TPAC State of the Penny event currently being coordinated by the Office of Communications. Our primary concern stems from the significant reduction of TPAC's involvement in the process, which undermines the spirit and intent of the event. According to the County Administrator's Report of Council Actions from September 18th, 2012, County Council approved in part the following responsibilities for TPAC. Report of the Joint Transportation Committee, action below, action administration. The Oversight and Accountability Committee, Council approved the following for the Transportation Penny Advisory Committee. 15 members, citizens only, goal of having representation in all three transportation modes, transit, bicycle, pedestrian, greenways. Appointments to be made by January 31st, 2013. A State of the Penny address would occur annually. Members will provide quarterly reports to each respective jurisdiction. Richland County will have 7 with a minimum of 5 from unincorporated county. Last summer, under the leadership of Chair John Black, TPAC successfully initiated and delivered the first State of the Penny address in over a decade. This event was a culmination of months of planning and collaboration, showcasing the collective contributions of TPAC, stakeholders, and county agencies. TPAC's leadership role was critical in ensuring the event was informative, transparent, and reflective of the program's purpose. While presented by Richland County, TPAC's active facilitation was pivotal in engaging the public and stakeholders. This past June, Chair Black once again began the process of planning the 2024 State of the Penny. While initially met with resistance from the Office of Communications, an announcement was made in July by Susan O'Kane following discussions with Chair Mackey that the event would be postponed until early 2025. The State of the Penny address is a key responsibility of TPAC. It serves as a platform to highlight the program's progress and achievements, showcasing the collective efforts of all stakeholders involved. Last year's successful format set a strong precedent by fostering engagement and inclusivity. However, we are concerned that the current proposal reduces TPAC's role to a brief appearance by the chair. This diminishes our leadership and oversight responsibilities and does not align with the intended collaborative nature of the event. TPAC's contributions and role must remain central to the program to reflect our accountability to the community. Last summer, under the leadership of Chair John Black, TPAC successfully initiated and delivered the State of the I think that's in there, yeah. This past June, Chair Black once again began the process of planning the 2024 State of the Penny. While in. Okay, hold on, because there's some repetitiveness in here. However, we are concerned. What the world? Maybe I just can't read. We respectfully propose the following adjustments to ensure a balanced and inclusive event. TPAC leadership as event moderators. The event should be opened and moderated by TPAC leadership, not the county administrator. This aligns with TPAC's role as facilitators of transparency and accountability. Collaborative agenda. The agenda should mirror last year's successful format and include presentations from Public Works, SCDOT, Richland County Economic Development, the Comment Office of OSBO. This approach ensures all stakeholders have a platform to share their contributions, maintaining transparency and collaboration. We believe these adjustments are necessary to uphold the integrity of the State of the Penny address and TPAC's role in the process. We hope you will support our request for a more balanced, inclusive format that reflects TPAC's leadership and commitment to serving the community. Yours in agreement, John Black, Eva Prelude, and Chris Keeper. I may have printed a wrong copy of this, but essentially that was the notice that was sent out last year. Obviously, and hopefully without the repetitive things in there. Oh. Don't judge. So does anybody have any questions about the direction of what TPAC is proposing to counter the initial? You know what, let's do this. I will find the corrected copy of this and I will send it out to everyone. And are we allowed to vote by email?
Yeah,
Or-
yeah, I think she just made you would need to probably have a special
Okay.
meeting. And I heard where you were getting ready, well, I don't know what you were getting ready after your committee, but I think it might be while you're going down that track, while you're all here, while you have a quorum, maybe you just want to ask your question, get a response before you wait another, month or try to get another meeting with a quorum. It's certainly up to you, Mr. Chair, it's your meeting, but while you have a quorum, you might want to.
I think the problem is it would be easier if everybody was resent the information and they saw the initial proposal that Ms. O'Kane provided.
Okay.
So that will get sent out to everyone. We can discuss it via email, and if a decision to move forward, then we can call a special meeting to approve or not approve the letter or response. Yes.
Can we put a sidebar discussion for a minute? Okay.
So make that motion.
Right, could I have one question, please?
Yeah.
Mr. Chair. What are the criterias for to actually get a project approved now? We are doing a needs assessment in the town of East Silver. Obviously, you can't compare our needs to the city of Columbia. If you look at traffic flow, pedestrian, things of that nature to have a project approved. What metrics are you going to use to identify projects that we need in our small town, being that we are not able to produce the amount of traffic flow and things of that nature? However, we still have the same safety issues, even though we may have 10 people on the sidewalk versus 100 on the sidewalk. The safety issues are still there. So what matrix should we, what criteria would you have us, how can I say this? What criteria should we meet in our small community in order to be able to have a project uh, versus Columbia asking for the same endeavor? And how do we match up with them? How would you use the same metrics for them as you use for us, or is there gonna be something that you can, that's gonna separate us from the large communities?
I can.
Yeah,
take a
that
shot
was
at that. In the principles document, the traffic flow, it affects, it can affect whether a project is community investment or county advancement, for instance. And there's 6 categories. So, if it brings an area that, if not for the project, would be blighted, and it brings it out of that, that's an area. If it helps with economic development, if it helps with the transportation system, if it helps, the biggest point is for safety. So safety isn't always, volume driven, particularly with sidewalks. You're looking at issues like, do you have railroad tracks to cross, things like that. So you're not going to necessarily on those types of improvements have a project because it's been, city beat out yours. So because there are those 6 different areas of concern, and you can be ahead in a lot of those depending on what it is. Where traffic volumes kind of come into play is if you had a signal going in, and that doesn't matter where it is, but just kind of like if it's a DOT road and you want to put signals in, it does. When I mentioned warrant studies, it's hard to put a signal in on a DOT road if it doesn't meet those. And that's where traffic volumes can come in on, like creating a signalized intersection, even putting up a stop sign. If you're going to stop the major traffic now, where it was just the minor road, stopping it, to stop that traffic, the minor road, for as much as 8 hours a day, has to meet a certain threshold of traffic. And those aren't as high as a signal. So stop sign, and it goes up to more for signals. And so that's something that could affect, your plan. If you wanted to put a signal somewhere, it would have to be evaluated for that.
Just one last thing, Sand Hill Road there in Eastover. If the kids are walking on that, it's a busy, very busy street, and a lot of kids live on that street, and they walk back and forth to catch the bus. If 2 cars are coming, the kids are gonna have to get in the ditch. And I've seen cars fly through there, like bats out of hell, trying to, maneuver themselves to save a position. So maybe we'll talk to you maybe one-on-one and give you some real criteria and some safety issues that we have at another time. But I don't think this is the time to really give you the real assessment as to what we think the problems are and how this Pennacook can help us. So if it's okay with you, we'll like to maybe sit with you, my brother and I sit with you at another time. And we'll go through exactly pinpoint some of what our real problems are. And it may not, I know we aren't as big as Columbia or Black, but we still have this thing. Sure. On a smaller scale, I think some should be addressed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ron Williams, you have your hand up, sir.
Yes, sir. Question that I have, I wasn't clear on the answer, but the letter that you just read, I remember the email going out. Was there ever a response? I wasn't clear on that part, because you requested a response, but I never heard whether there was one or not.
No, sir, there was no response made.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, sir.
All right.
Okay, well, Chairman Black, I'd like to, since we have a quorum, to move forward in making a recommendation to approve the 2025 State of the Penny Address response letter with the appropriate revisions to county council and to the ad hoc committee.
Is there a second?
So, seconded.
All right, second, Mr. Williams.
Yes,
Is
sir.
there any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed?
Aye.
Who was that?
Thank you.
Did somebody oppose? Okay. Any abstentions? All right, the motion passed unanimous. We will get this corrected. And we will send it out to. We'll get this sent out within the next day or so. All right, our next meeting is scheduled for Monday, April 21st, 2025. And if there's no other business and without objections, we stand adjourned at 5:02.